Hello, welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I'm pretty sure Def still owes me money.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss Final Destination, which came out in 2000, based on an original script by Jeffrey Reddick, with a screenplay by Glenn Morgan and James Wong, and directed by James Wong. Iain, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows Alex Browning, played by Devon Sawyer. He's heading to Paris with his school friends on a trip when he has a nightmare that the plane is going to explode. When he and 6 of his friends are pulled off, the plane leaves and explodes without them. But something is still hunting them.
So like I said, this is based on an original script that was intended for the X-Files.
Ooh.
And it was New Line Cinema's, their producers that kind of looked at it and just went, how about you kind of flesh this out and make it a feature movie instead? Because it's not quite working for the X-Files.
Yeah.
But then they got, James Wong and Glenn Morgan, who are behind the X-Files, to come along and add the, expand that story into a screenplay and then actually direct the film.
Yeah.
And this came out at sort of an interesting time, sort of the new wave of teen slasher movies.
Yeah.
It was, the late 90s when Wes Craven revitalized, the teen slasher genre with Scream.
Yeah.
And then we had all of the follow-ups to that. And
all of the remakes came out.
Final Destination is, for all intents and purposes, a teen slasher movie.
Yes.
But it has a really original concept, which is death.
Yes.
Because death has appeared in numerous other things and films over time, but never quite presented this way. And this is also one of the very few films, really, that has a completely invisible killer.
Yeah. I remember this film coming out in 2000, and since I was able to get my hands on videotapes and work out how videotape player worked, I was eating up movies and mainly horror movies. When you're a teen, you're like, yeah, I'll watch all the Friday the 13th. Everyone's talking about them. I'll watch all the Freddy movies, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Burning, everything that you could watch from 70s to late 90s, I was watching. And I was getting burnt out and bored by the same kind of premise. The teens turn up at some locale, the killer is there, or they resurrect the killer, and he murders them all until, the last girl saves the day, and you're like, oh, well, sequel, yay. And then Final Destination came along, and I remember me and a group of school friends saying, yeah, we'll go to the cinema. So I was like, I'm on it. I'm fucking going to see it. And just everything in this movie was so original and fresh. I cheered and whooped while I was in the cinema, just behind this whole concept.
Well, it's also one of those horror movies that doesn't start off with the big explosion.
Yeah.
It has that slow build-up, the very slow title crawl.
Yes.
The eerie music, and there's a lot of foreshadowing of some of the events that will occur.
Yes.
And then we get introduced to Alex and his parents, and the omen of him not wanting to remove the wrapper that's on his suitcase. On his luggage case, and the mum cuts it anyway. And he's just like, oh, goes to bed that night, and you have that wonderful camera shot just sweep around the room. It's just like something's just watching him already. But then, you have that great shot where it just goes into the alarm clock.
And it's the flashing of the 180.
And then it flashes into the 180, and then it pulls back to reveal the flight board.
Yeah.
That they said they spent forever trying to get that shot to work, but it's almost seamless in the film.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah,
and that's where then we get introduced to all the other characters.
I'd only ever seen Devon Sawyer in Idle Hands, and I actually watched Idle Hands after I watched Final Destination. So to me, there's the only 2 films I've ever seen him in. Right. But he's still a really cool teen early 2000s actor. We've got Ali Larter playing Claire Rivers. Ali Larter looks a lot like Claire Redfield.
Yeah, it's uncanny,
isn't it? It's weird, isn't it? She definitely needs to, look into seeing if she can get that spot in movies. We've got Kerr Smith playing Carter Horton. Now, Kerr Smith, and I'm not afraid to admit this, but I was watching Dawson's Creek at around about the time Final Destination came out. So Kerr Smith, his character in Dawson's Creek was this, closeted gay character. And so he put a lot of emotion into that character. And then I get to see him in Final Destination, where he's a dick. He's a massive dick all the way through the movie. And what makes it even better is that Sean William Scott, Stifler, is in this, playing Billy Hitchcock. but he's not he's not being able to push himself around. He calls Carter a dick a lot.
He has the same mannerisms as Stifler, but I think that's just Sean William Scott. He has those mannerisms in everything. He is kind of like Stifler, but without the confidence.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, he doesn't talk to girls like that. Like, a lot of the other characters hate Billy. And I'm like, what the fuck for? Like, he looks like he's got some money. He's got some good clothes on him. He's not. He's being polite.
He's just stupid and clumsy.
That doesn't mean you have to fucking... But then again, it's a teen school movie. You know, you always pick on the...
Well, it's only really Carter that kind of picks on Billy.
Well,
and nobody else just really does anything or says anything when he does.
There's a couple of bits where he talks to Alex, and Alex just basically dismisses him, which I'm like, I don't like you now, Alex.
Well, no, it's because I mean, the scene you're talking about is after, and Alex is trying to deal with the loss of everything, and Billy's just like, hey, is my girlfriend going to leave me?
Well, the girl that he wants to ask out, but it's like he's making every attempt to talk to everybody else other than. But it's the fact that he's set in the airport. Alex is in the airport with his mate Todd, and Todd says to him, like, man, I need to take a shit. And Alex is like, well, why do you need me for? And Todd explains to him, like, you know, you're going to eat this food, and then you're going to get on the plane, and the plane, you know, toilet is useless. We need to go now. So they go to the toilet together. And it's just more foreshadowing. The film really does work. When he's sat on the toilet, and he's listening to John Denver. Fucking John Denver. When John Denver turns up, you know a lot of people are going to fucking die. But it's the way he's singing, and, you know, Alex is like, oh, he died in a plane crash. I'd have been up, pulled my trousers up, been like, nope, taking the bus. You know? But they get onto the plane, you know, and you see all these little things, the dents in the door frame. I mean, you see that little car that goes underneath the gap
with number 666
on it. Oh, it's close. And it's like Todd's brother. They're looking around the plane. There's a baby crying. There's a disabled man there. You know, there's all these young kids. And Todd's brother goes, you'd have to be a really fucked up god to bring down this plane. And I'm like...
That's a good sign. Younger the better to be a fucked up god to take down this plane. A really fucked up god.
And that is when, you know, Alex goes into his seat, and the pretty girls are just like, please, Alex, can we take these seats?
Yeah.
So he ends up going back over, and he sits next to his friend Todd, and he pulls the thing out, and it comes loose, and you're just like, isn't that just the worst thing that can happen to you on a plane?
Yeah, yeah.
But then you go through the motions of the takeoff.
Yeah.
The plane starts vibrating. Next thing you know, there's a tear down the side of the plane. The masks drop down, the oxygen masks. There's a fire down one end. Teenagers are being dragged out of the plane. There's a fireball. There's a sudden burst of blood up one of the walls.
Oh, yeah. I was like, whoa.
Like somebody just got hit.
Yeah.
Like luggage is flying down the carriage. And then you watch Alex erupt in a fireball.
Yeah, the fire just burns over him, and he just sits there.
And you know, he wakes up from it like sweating and panicked, and like, you know, as an audience member, you're just like, that was one of the most intense, disturbing, and anxiety-inducing scenes ever put into a horror movie. And it works because the filming was really effective.
Yes.
The set was very well designed.
Yeah.
The special effects of the kids being dragged out of the plane really worked. All of the actors delivered, you know, appropriate responses that you will think twice about getting on a plane without a doubt. And that's like one of this franchise's strengths, is that the big catastrophe always happens in places where a lot of people will experience in their lives.
Yes.
And so it will play on your fear.
Yes.
And it does it very well. And so when he panics and tells everybody the plane is going to explode.
Yeah.
And, you know, he ends up in a fight with Carter. The security guards kind of drag them off the plane, and everybody else that's in the aisle off the plane. But then you also have Todd, who's been told to go look after his friend, and then Claire, who's also looking a little bit upset by the whole thing, decides to leave too.
Yeah, well, if somebody starts shouting like the plane's going to explode, I'll be like, I'll be on the fucking runway.
This is the thing, is that this film came out just a couple of years before 9/11.
Yeah.
So it's interesting seeing how airport security handles things before and how it does now. Because if that would happen after 9/11, that plane wouldn't have left anywhere.
No.
Everybody would have been taken off the plane. Full investigation. Alex would have been ended up in a cell for several days for interrogation.
Yeah.
And so, but in this film, it's just like, okay, no, you're off the plane. You'll catch the next flight. It was like, it was almost no big deal.
Well, that's it. It's like a whole different time, isn't it? It's funny you bring that up because I was thinking the exact same thing because I'm watching this movie and obviously in the time that we are now, social distancing and all that, I'm looking around, I'm like, wow, it's weird to watch a film which doesn't have that. And on top of that, these are teens in the 2000s, right, with no mobile phones.
Right, yeah.
I was like, it's like watching a black and white movie sometimes. Just the way, like, you're like, look at the past, man, look how it works. But yeah, they get them off the plane.
And some people have said, oh, well, when you see the plane going off in the distance, and Billy's watching it, and then the plane just explodes.
Yeah.
No,
there was a lot of build-up in there that you didn't see from the outside.
But the thing is that the plane... people are saying, like, when you saw the premonition, the plane was nosediving, it didn't explode so soon after takeoff, and it was different. And it would have been different because the plane had a delayed takeoff.
Yes.
And that meant what was going to cause the explosion was already still occurring.
Yes.
And so because they got taken off the plane didn't take off on schedule.
Yeah.
So it blew up sooner.
Yeah.
Because it was already... But the thing is, the directors and the editors timed it so that the plane blew up at the exact same time it did in the premonition.
Yeah.
But it didn't have as much time to take off. So maybe not all the students would have yanked out of the plane. It was just a spontaneous explosion.
Well, that's it. I mean, people could have once they got back on the plane, they could have rearranged some seats. They could have moved some people. But we know from later on in the movie when Alex gets like a seating plan, he works out because you see the investigation. They explained that there was a fire that started above the seat where he was originally going to sit. And it's moved down the electrics and then hit this corner, which is what we saw explode and the people get whipped out. But then, like you said, people could have moved there. Somebody could have activated something else. I just love the fact that you're sat there, like I'm sat there. I remember sitting there in the cinema, like on edge, like that was a really good dream sequence. I've seen a lot of dream sequences, and I didn't realize that was a dream sequence until he was awake, and now he's off the plane, and I'm wanting the plane to explode because if it doesn't, then Alex is fucking crazy, and then everybody's just arguing, and you're thinking it's natural, and Sean William Scott's just there like, hey, boom! Windows are smashed in, and now is a bit of a weird one, because, and this is why death is a git. Death is a git. Like, they are investigated by the FBI, and each one of them is interviewed. I mean, Christine Cloak playing Valerie Lewton. Christine Cloak, I think, is yours and mine little fetish that we have from Space Above and Beyond.
You could call it that.
Yeah, like you, me, her, a hotel room, and a couple of yogurt pots would be a good weekend. But anyway, she plays the teacher, and she is convinced another teacher to go on the plane, and so she stayed off. And, like, death has given some of these omens to Alex. But then after they've had their investigation, 39 days pass. 39 days! Like, death, he orchestrates all of this shit but goes, you know what, Alex? I'll wait.
Well, it's one of the things that made me think when I was watching the film. Is like, we don't have a definitive answer as to whether it's death. And if we are going to say that it is a supernatural being as death, maybe it's not just death, but maybe it's one of the Grim Reapers. And so...
The Grim Reaper is death.
Well, you can have lots of Reapers.
That's from... Death from, like me.
It's also like from Supernatural. It's from lots of other shows.
All right, okay. Sorry. When you throw in these trivial things, you got to remember I don't watch some of these shows.
But I'm just saying, it's like the Grim Reapers, or Death himself, is almost an invention of a character. It's one of the Four Horsemen.
I've always imagined death as like I've always imagined death as kind of like a person who does kind of disappear in the dimensions every now and again, and he does touch you and boom, things happen, and the way this movie does it, it's like you see that black image thing every now and again, so it's like a presence.
Yes.
But like he only has that little black silhouette when he's about to make his kill.
Yeah. Which for me, I kind of imagined that Death he got to the plane terminal early, kind of checked in his luggage, got on the plane, sabotaged it, and then he was like, "Oh shit, I got to be in Albuquerque in 10 minutes."
Oh fuck yeah!
Through a portal into Albuquerque. It gets to the end of the month and he's doing his checklist and he's just like, right, 300,000, 200 and wait, I'm missing 7.
7.
Wait, and then he flips on the news, and it's like, there was a memorial at the school today for the 7th survivors. He's like, found him!
All I'm imagining now is this hooded silhouette of a character going, just getting up and, opening the cupboard.
Put his cloak back on.
Put his cloak over his cloak, because he wears a cloak underneath. His wife cloak comes out. She's like, and he's like, and she's like, hands him his scythe. He's like, pats his little kitty.
But the thing is, as we find out, that Death doesn't take you skipping out on him very nicely.
No,
he's not going to play. I mean, to be fair, a lot of people died pretty horrific deaths on that plane, but. Death he's going to drag it out now. He's like, you got away, so now maybe he did it intentionally. Like,
I was going to say,
like he's a predator.
Maybe it's like a time thing. Maybe it's like a time thing. Like in the future, like one of those kids was going to become the new Adolf Hitler, and so you had to wipe out a whole entire plane, to stop that one person. But he's come back. I don't know. But I love the fact that after this, I mean, like I said, 39 days pass, and they're at a memorial service, and they are all suspicious of Alex. 39 days have passed. The investigators still can't fully explain why this plane just exploded and why Alex, they've got no evidence to point that Alex had anything to do with the plane crash. But he knew enough to save 7 people. And those 7 people are now dealing with the trauma of losing all of their friends. And like I said, I mean, Valerie Lewton, the teacher, she really plays the whole depressed teacher, losing kids that she's worked with for years, and now she even turns to Alex at the memorial and she goes, "You scare me," and walks away. Which I'm like, I think that
it's a human response. It was genuine.
Yeah, I know, but I think it also fuels the Alex, attitude of not wanting to talk to Billy. Like, he wants to talk to his teacher, but she doesn't want to talk to him. Carter thinks he's a dick. Clear, she feels a connection to him, and so he's building these relationships with these people that he's saved. But Billy, he's like, "Nah, go away, Billy. I don't want anything to do with you, even though I saved your life." And I'm like, "Oh,
that's because Billy's asking him lots of stupid questions, like he's a magic 8-ball."
Yeah, I know, but I don't know. It's something about, like I said, maybe it's the fact that we were so endued with Stifler at this time that seeing Sean William Scott just being shoved away by people lesser than him, I'm like, I don't know, it just doesn't sit right. I'd rather of them try to work with Billy instead of him being because he's like the joke every now and again. Like, there's the cafe sequence where after Todd has died, or they believe he committed suicide, but it's so amazingly built up. Todd is trying to get on with his life. Like, his brother has died, and his dad doesn't want him to hang out with Alex because Alex saw this death. And he goes to the bathroom, and it's just one foreshadowing thing after another. Like, Death puts these dominoes in place.
Like, is he going to cut himself shaving?
Yeah.
And it made me wonder, I'm like, what's he shaving for? There's, not even a shadow.
And why pick the most oldest 1920s fucking razor you can get? But the water.
Yeah.
This is where I was sat watching this film for the review, and I'm like, fuck that shit, because Death is controlling that water.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the set was built kind of at an angle, so the water would kind of flow down.
Yeah, I know.
And,
I know that.
From where the water was dripping from, it wouldn't have actually come from the tank, so it wouldn't have been that blue colour.
No, yeah.
But the directors decided, we're going to have to colourize the water, otherwise the audience isn't going to see
what it is.
So that's why it's done that way. But yeah, and then, he just turns, steps in it, slips, falls into the bath. The washing line just wraps itself around his neck. He falls into the bathtub.
Great.
And it's a prolonged thing. You think he's going to try and reach for something to grab the scissors to...
Because you do want him to get away, because you're like, no, he doesn't deserve to die.
But his eyes go bloodshot. He scrambles around. You watch his toes curl up, and that's it. He's gone.
But Alex has had like another omen going to him, and this is like I said, like this is why I think death's such a gift. Because
it's almost like two omens, like the owl that appears at his window. In some cultures, the owl is an omen of death.
Yeah.
And then he throws his magazine at the fan.
Yeah.
And the paper lands on his leg.
And this has that little Todd bit, which I'm like,
I don't know if you know, but it's also Todd is death in German.
Well, that's it. The filmmakers they had a lot of hints to famous people and horror characters, just in there that obviously if you're not privy to, or maybe if you've been studying it, you'll go, oh look, there's this, that, and the next thing, it's like everything in this movie is just horror based.
Oh yeah. So Alex runs to Todd's house.
Yeah.
And they see him, the body being taken away. The parents see him. And then Clear is just hiding behind a tree. Just like, Alex, get out of here.
You're like...
the FBI agents are there. And they're like, it's funny that Alex should be here.
Yeah. He definitely had some kind of, motive to kill his friend who he didn't kill on that plane.
So... Alex ends up running off, and then he ends up meeting up with Clear, and they decide that they're going to break into the mortuary.
Yeah.
So they sneak in that night to go and see Todd's body, and they can see that the wire marks, but they can also see that he scratched away at himself, which would suggest that he didn't hang himself because he was trying to pull it away.
Well, that's what Tony Todd explains, doesn't he? That he was trying to fight against the wire, and so Alex is then like, well, he didn't commit suicide. It must have been an accident. And Tony Todd's like, there are no accidents in death.
You have to figure out how and when it's coming back at you. Play your hunch, Alex, if you think you can get away with it.
Every time I watch this movie, I'm like, it's him.
Well, I mean, his name is what, Bloodworth?
Yeah.
And
just the way that his character is, like he knows Alex, he works in a morgue, he knows about Death's grand plan. I always thought, like, it never does, like, spoilers, it's not. But I always thought it would have been a cool thing, like, if he was like the live action embodiment of Death. And his spirit goes out and does it, but it's a bit OTT. The film was supposed to stay grounded.
There's a lot of fan theories that he is, but the producers, directors, writers have all said no, he's not.
He's not.
He just knows what's going on.
Yeah,
that's the size of it.
The fact that he keeps turning up for the next fucking 5 movies doesn't make it fucking easier.
Right. But then I'm like, well, maybe he's just one of the Reapers. He's one of the younglings.
Oh, yeah. Here's my calling card.
He has that ominous message for them. He kind of tells them, what the film is about, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's that next sequence that it's this sequence that always just blows me immediately out of the movie.
What's that?
Like, I mean, the film is riddled with coincidences. It's all the coincidences that lead to some of those over-the-top kind of deaths.
Yeah.
But it's this one coincidence that I just never like, and that we have Clear and Alex sat at the table drinking coffee.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, the teacher comes out right from behind them.
Yeah.
Then you have Carter and his girlfriend driving past, and Billy's on the same road.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's a coincidence that 6 of the 7 survivors all happen to be on this road at this one point in time again.
Yeah.
I was just like, my brain just cannot accept that coincidence occurred.
No, I like that's the same with me. I don't mind Carter being there with his girlfriend and having a conversation with Alex. Like I said, I don't like Billy being knocked off his bike again just because Carter's driving erratically. It's like he almost died again, but doesn't. And then you've got the teacher who, like, I love watching Valerie Lewton walk around, but like it just, they're having this whole conversation with Alex there, and Terry, Carter's girlfriend, gets so annoyed, and she's just like, I'm going, and she walks, and she turns, and like, as an experienced film watcher, what's coming. Like, he'd already seen the bus go past, but for the first time viewers, like, I still remember seeing it in the cinema, you do not see that bus coming.
It was very well designed. There's many films where they set up that camera angle, and you're like, they're gonna get hit by a car.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it's Final Destination that created that angle.
I think
but
so.
But when you see that shot, but it always catches you off guard.
And if you want to waste your life beating the shit out of Alex every time you see him, then you can just drop fucking dead.
And then, that collision. And it's only there for a second. Like, the camera doesn't stay there. Like, once the bus is off the frame, or even before it's off the frame, you're back on the reactions of everybody with the blood splattered on them. Interestingly as well, when Alex turns, he's got a 7 on his cheek and blood spray, and it's just like maybe it was a coincidence that the blood landed that way, but it was also the 7, and there were 7 survivors.
7 survivors, yeah. So Miss Lewton is moving away from town. She's had enough. The teens are dying around her, and she's depressed. You know, I think she's quit her job at this point. But Alex is following the pattern from the plane, and realizes that she's next. And so he goes to her house, and she gets so paranoid and upset that he might kill her that she calls the FBI agents, and the FBI agents remove Alex. I absolutely fucking love Miss Lewton's death, you know, because I always love imaginative deaths in movies that, you know, build up and build up and build up, and then the climax is there and you're like, oh yeah, that was really good. And I think Final Destination first did it for me.
It was this first film that does it in a believable way, where you believe that they are just accidents.
Yeah.
Like, with all of the sequels, they become so over the top, but then with the sequels, you're kind of just like, oh, I just now want to see how this person dies.
Yeah.
But at least in this first one, you kind of care for the characters.
Yes,
it's like, that's what the first one did right.
I mean, I always have cared for the characters as I'm watching the movies, but like I said, at this point, I'd been burnt out by the usual teen running around, machete wielding killer. I mean, I suppose this is what would take me into the Saw series and why I would love the Saw series so much, because, you know, it's not about the gory death. It's going to get to the gory death, but it's about the build up to that, and if you think that person deserves it or not. And Miss Lewton, like, everything is so amazing. Like, she pours the hot water into her cup, you know, throws it away, pours the ice and the vodka in from the freezer, which immediately makes the cup crack, you know. And then, I mean, stupidly, like, she would have noticed that she was dripping vodka through her kitchen. Like, you'd have to be.
I don't know, she got a lot going on her mind.
Yeah, I know, but it's a pretty big fucking crack, and it would be empty, but you'd be like, what the fucking vodka?
I don't know, it was only dripping ever so much, just enough to drip down the back of the monitor.
He's controlling it, isn't he? Controlling it just enough, so it drips into the monitor, makes it fizz, and she has a look at it. The screen explodes, a piece of glass goes right in her neck, which I'm like, don't take it out.
Oh, so she takes it right out.
She fucking takes it out.
It hits like the jugular, pretty much. I mean, it's piss and blood, so she's crawling around. You know, if the fire gets set off, she ends up collapsing on the floor, bleeding out, and she put the dish towel over the knives. And, you know, the camera angle set for the audience to see what's going on, and then from her perspective, just the towel. And the knife just tonk right through her chest. Right. Now, they did the whole body double thing where she's literally laying underneath the floorboards and it's just a fake body. But it looks seamless.
Oh, it fucking looks brilliant.
At this point, Alex has finished his interrogation with the agents. You know, and the agents have that Mulder and Scully moment where it's like, I believe him. And the other one's like, you scare me. It's the whole Mulder and Scully thing. But they have to let him go again, and he goes all the way back to the teacher's place. I do have some problems there with the timings. Like, from the moment they picked him up, take him to the precinct, interrogated him, and he got back, and I'm like, it only feels like 5 minutes.
That's it. It's like this. It feels like they're placed in a small town with, like, where the morgue is and like where the people's houses. Yeah, but it's like we don't know where they are, or like we know Alex got taken to some kind of interrogation room in a police station, but how far is that from the teacher's house? Because he gets all the way back there. She's still kind of partially alive, bleeding profusely, and he tries to save her, and the chair falls and just whacks the handle of the knife deeper into her, and you're like, ooh, yeah, she's dead now. She's dead.
But then he sets himself up, you know, he's left a footprint in the blood, he pulls the knife out, and he's like, drops the knife, realizes that there's going to be, you know, he sees the gas is still leaking or whatever, so he runs out the house just before it explodes in a huge fireball.
Or just as Billy, the comedy, you know, relief, is there to watch him run away. Yeah. You know, because obviously he then passes the information to the FBI agents, you know, so the FBI agents are now massively convinced, you know, that he killed his teacher for whatever reason. You know, like, that's probably the only unbelievable thing I get with this movie, is how people believe that the person who's having the omens is the killer. You know, like even if they were investigating this teacher's exploded house, they're like, all right, okay, so he's left his footprint in the blood and there's fingerprints on the knife, so it's obviously it's obvious to me that he stabbed her in the neck, then stabbed her in the chest, then blew up her house.
Yeah, obviously. So in the next sequence, we've got Carter, who ends up picking up Billy and Clear and Alex, and he's driving away, and Alex is trying to explain Death's grand design.
Yes.
But Carter, it's just like, he's so upset with the fact that he's going to die that he doesn't have control of his life.
Yeah.
That he's just like, well, in that case, I'll have control of my death. And he just starts speeding through the streets, just, swerving past cars until he takes them to a train crossing.
Yeah, we see the omen of the train in the mirror just before he stops.
Yeah. There's just kind of outside the film here for you is that, Carter has become, he's a dick. He's an aggressive sort of character throughout the film. But as the film goes on, he does become a nicer and nicer person.
He does.
Except the instance where he elbows Billy in the face.
Yeah, exactly.
But the thing is, that wasn't in the script. It was written in, and they had to perform it because Sean William Scott had a really sore lip.
Oh.
So they're like, just elbow him in the face. We'll cover it in blood, and nobody will notice.
Ah, nice, nice.
But yeah, you saw the train coming in like a reflection of a window. He stops the car there, and he's like, I'm in control. Everybody gets out. And then he tries to start the car, and it won't start.
Yeah. which I think is really good for the Carter character to have at this moment, because he, since the beginning, he's been Mr. Alpha top dog. I'm in control of everything. You can't stop me. And so he's so confident. And when he stops the car, he's going to start it again. And then it doesn't. And then his belt buckle's not working. And the door's not opening. All these things that you knew 2 minutes before were working absolutely fine are now not working at all. And it's down to Alex to save him and pull him out of the car. But what's fucking even better, and this had me cheering in the cinema, was when the car gets hit by the train and they're lying on the floor together, and Billy, Sean William Scott's character, is just bad-mouthing Carter like, I'm staying away from you, man. You're going to get me killed. I fucking hate you, man. God damn it. I love you. I started to really love Sean William Scott. I think I always have fun.
I don't know if you noticed at that moment as well that when Carter stands up, he's completely wet himself.
Really? No.
I only noticed on this last viewing. I was just
nice. He's pissed his pants. But you see this piece of car debris metal underneath the train just rattling. And so by this point in the fucking movie, if you don't know what's going to happen, then just turn it off and go away. But Sean William Scott's just stood there and it just whips out and just takes up. But doesn't take off the top of his head. Just like his jawline.
Yeah.
Which I thought was even better special effects, because you see his head roll and it's still the body's still kind of moving.
And then it falls over, yeah. So, there's now just the three of them left alive, three survivors of the plane.
Yeah.
But there's something I just want to bring up, and that is how well this film does the foreshadowing of the deaths.
Always,
like from the opening credits, when you saw the silhouette of the doll that was hung.
Yes.
To the moment you saw Todd on the plane, and he's telling Alex not to move, and he's doing the hanging himself.
Yeah.
So
the books where Alex is sleeping, you're kind of hearing screams in the background as it's looking over the French Revolution, and play like.
Well, I'm just like more obvious ones that are on screen as well. Like when the teachers, when she leans over the computer, there's a great big dagger in the background in the stained glass window.
Yes.
And it's like orange around it as well, so it's just like the knife and the fire.
Yes.
When they get off the plane, when Terry is looking at Alex after after the plane's just exploded, there's a great big picture of a bus behind her, a still picture of a bus. When Billy is looking out the window and watching the plane take off, the plane silhouette flies right over here. Right over the line where he gets decapitated. I'm like, there are so many of them in this film that you just don't realize it. But the the filmmakers knew exactly what they were doing, and so all the deaths are foreshadowed or hinted to or alluded to in minor and major ways that some you'll pick up and some you won't until later viewings. But you so well crafted in that regard. It's I like a film that rewards you for paying attention.
Yeah. Towards the end of the movie, Alex has been whipped away to Clear's cabin in the woods. Like Clear's family, her background, Ali Larter's character is a bit kind of like Phoebe Cates from Gremlins. Her dad was killed, and her mum is like she's got a house. Like Clear's got a house, but you never see her parents ever.
There is about 10 minutes of deleted scenes, and most of those deleted scenes kind of establish a relationship between Alex and Clear.
Yeah.
Like they get romantically involved.
Yeah.
And in the alternate ending, she has his child.
Oh.
But I'll get into the alternate ending after we... Yeah.
But it's the point where Alex is like hiding in his cabin and he's, safe-proofing everything. He's got everything covered, but Death still manages to get underneath the door and blow something, which gets the fishing rod to hook a door, and a blade comes out. And then Alex is like, "Oh, you almost got me with tetanus, you son of a bitch! Ha 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 ha! Oh, you're gonna be going after my lover, the girl that I actually fancy." Because he's starting to realize that if he saves the person just at the point of death, it'll skip them. And he's done it a couple of times. Like he did it with Carter. He's done it with the 7 at the start anyway. So now he wants to do it with Clear. And Clear's like when they set up these deaths, it all does look very natural. It also looks very supernatural. And this,
especially as the film goes on, it gets a little bit silly.
Well, yeah, but it's. I don't know. It's silly in a film way, but still very natural. Like I said, the thunder and lightning's always been there. So you got this dropped power cable, which is kind of snaking around.
Which they don't, which is why I mean it gets silly, because they just sit there.
Yeah.
But in this, it's flailing around. It's trying to get her.
It's kind of making a roaring noise as well, like death is there, and she's gonna go rescue her dog. But it's the way that it kind of gets that art thing that she was working on to stab into the water pool near her, which then drops water all over the floor, which the electric cable falls into and electrifies everything, which short circuits the whole entire house while Ali Larter is running through it, and she goes to get in a car. Why the fuck? Why do people... That's the whole horror movie trope, isn't it? It's like, just run out the front door. No, I got to go to the garage and get in my car.
That won't start.
That won't start.
It's a horror movie.
Yeah. And then just as she reverses, the garage door thing comes down and smashes through her window, and the electrical cables on top of the car. And Alex is being chased by the cops all the way, to there. And he's had a couple of close calls. He's almost fallen into a branch to stab him in the face. He's almost been drowned by a tree. And it's... You could easily think that Death is trying to stop him. But I actually think that, because once he gets to Clear, he does save her. And he does the whole, Death is going to skip you again thing. Which, as a Final Destination experience watcher, I'm like, that motherfucker was on you, Alex. He wanted you in those woods and you avoided him. And so when you got to Clear... He kind of let you.
Maybe.
He kind of let you because he had to make a whole new design. And he does. He grabs the power cable. She jumps out the car. Just as the car explodes, he gets blown back. And the movie kind of makes you think that he's died. But then it skips 6 months later. They're all happy. Which, like Gary and I said before the film review, like, why the fuck would you get on another plane?
Yeah, you just don't think you ever would you?
No, never.
But then, of course, they're going to Paris as well.
Yay!
And then you hear John Denver in the background. The guy
French.
Playing the guitar.
French version.
Yeah. And I looked at him and I was like, I know you. It's the actor who played Felix Gator from Battlestar Galactica, who's playing the guitar.
That's who it was! I was searching the internet because I thought somebody had forgotten to add it to Taika Waititi's filmography.
He looked just like him, didn't he? It really did.
I was like, I didn't think it was Gator.
Yeah.
Oh, no. But yeah, all the signs are there. Alex sees, sees a bus. Clear sees the bus, sorry. Alex sees other symbols. He hears the John Denver song. He sees dead meat, and I don't understand it. Like, he goes, right, I'm going to go back to the hotel. You guys stay here.
Because he thinks it's on him next.
Yeah, but why wouldn't he just stand there and go, right, just before I die, push me out of the way? Because that's how the theory works, right?
Right, yeah.
He
didn't want to endanger anybody else.
He just got off a plane to Paris! Like, how endangered...
Yeah, but it's only now that he's in Paris that he's realised that maybe, he's just saw the omens again, so now he's just like, actually, no, I don't think we did get away.
Yeah, true.
And, well, I guess he didn't.
No.
Because, by whatever means, the great big sign above the restaurant takes a tumble, and we see Carter looking around, and we just see it swoop right round from behind him.
And the way the movie ends like that.
Just like that. Yeah, credits are rolling now.
Yeah, it's like, you've had enough death.
And it's
you
just
ain't
like,
having
okay,
more.
it's a perpetual cycle. It's going to skip, and come right back around to you again.
Which I thought was just fucking brilliant, because like I said, as an experienced horror watcher, you've seen so many horror movies where the killer gets away, and comes back, or the teens get away. Where for me, this film ended with nobody escapes, nobody. No. And as the film franchise goes on, they keep the universe very well contained.
Yeah, I mean the films go down in quality as we go along, but there are great moments in them.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, they're not as impactful or as meaningful or as strong as this film is.
I don't know.
But no, they just have good kill moments. That's about it. But at least I thought that the script writing and the character work in this one was better. Now, this wasn't the original ending in the film either.
Right.
It was the producers that came in and went, no, you can't do the ending that you wanted. That was in the original script.
Right. What's the ending?
In the original ending, like I said, Alex and Clear have a relationship.
Right, yeah.
When he goes to take the power cord off the car, he gets electrocuted, gets incinerated, and dies. And then it cuts to... a year or so later, Clear has had Alex's baby, and Clear and Carter are kind of at the school memorial thing,
right?
And we survived the cycle, like thanks to Alex. He, Death claimed him again. It ended the cycle, and they're just like, and then Carter has realized that they will die, but naturally, like Death's no longer stalking them anymore. And I liked that ending because it was kind of, at least it was a kind of happy ending, because Death's not going to stalk them anymore. And it kind of leaves you on that thought like, we've just watched all these people die. And it leaves you on that inevitability as well that we are all going to die at some point and there's nothing we can do about it. And at least these two characters have made peace with it.
Kills the franchise there, though.
Yes, it does. But of course,
the franchise,
but that
right
was
there.
what the story. That's what the creators wanted. It was just a self-contained movie, and of course, it was the studio that went, "No, leave it open for sequels."
Well, I'm sorry, but if you're going to go into Hollywood with a film that involves a lot of teenagers dying and then end it on a happy ending, you ain't getting nowhere. Because I would that ending. I mean, I suppose I'd have to watch it filmed in the context of the movie, but from you describing it, it just doesn't fit.
The producers didn't want them to kill off Alex, but then of course
they shouldn't kill off Alex. Alex is the main guy, and then with the ending that we get, we actually don't know if Alex is killed. We know Carter is killed because Carter just saved Alex, so it skipped him. It skipped Alex now, and it's going to come round for Carter, and then it'll come round for Clear, and then it'll come back round for Alex. And that's what I think is amazingly original with this film. It's like, okay, Michael Myers got blown out of a window. You can question how he survived 6 shots, got up, survived a fire in a hospital. You can make up any of your ideas about how Freddy comes back and Jason and all that kind of stuff. Death is unstoppable. It is still natural, and the way that it makes it all look natural and accidental. Bastard.
I just like in the alternate ending that Carter survives till the end credits because he's the most unlikely of all the characters to make it to the end and survive.
Well, he still technically makes it to the end.
Well, no. No, the film kind of pretty much suggests he's dead.
I had the credits, but that little bit where they're on the plane getting off, he looked pretty much alive there.
Yeah, that's just like sniping the character to right at the credits mark. It's not fair, especially because he became a decent guy. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So favorite scenes, Iain?
Oh man, I've got a few. A really fucked up god would have to take down this plane. I don't think I've heard that line before when I've watched the film, but hearing it this time, I'm like, yeah, man, yeah.
God ain't got nothing to do with this.
Yeah, God's got nothing. But it's the way that my mind then thinks about like overthinking like all the planes that have crashed throughout like history, and the people that have been on it, the people who were like, oh, I'm just going to take this quick journey. Even like something like John Denver. I didn't even know John Denver was dead until I watched this film and he goes like, he died in a plane crash. And I'm like, oh, really? Who with? And it turns out he didn't die until like late 90s in like a single fighter and single engine plane, that he spent hours practicing and stuff like that. And I was like, fuck, it happens to everybody. You know what? I'm just going to make this easy. I love the premonition deaths. I love all of the setup of the deaths, just the way that they escalate. And I know this happens more in the other films, but in this one, the way that they escalate even more, the plane naturally explodes, not naturally, but takes out a bunch of people. Todd hangs himself. Kind of looks natural. Then what happens to the teacher? Fuck me, that's amazing what happens to the teacher. Just every little thing just taking her out. The piece of metal. I mean, I know it's not as over the top as maybe the guy getting strangled in the bath, but the build up to it, the car stopping on the tracks, the tension, this piece of metal rattling like that. All the way, the bus. Like, I will never forget that girl getting hit by that bus.
Look both ways.
Yeah, all the bloody time. Wait, listen, look, look over your shoulder. And like Gary said, even I suppose if I went back and watched even more, all of my favourite scenes would involve all of the little touches in the background. The French, all the way up to the French sign at the end that says 180 on it, which was the number of the plane, just, yeah. I'm done.
Just a little bit of trivia for you, but... Yeah. There's a sequence of complete CGI in the film that's really, really hard to tell unless somebody tells you.
Okay.
But when he's at the terminal and he turns around and you see all the boards.
Oh yeah.
All flips, some of them flip to cancel. That entire board was CGI.
Yeah, I kind of.
It had like an uncanny look to it, but you're just like your brain just goes. It looks so real.
But I haven't seen a board like that ever in real life. Okay. By the time I got to the airports, they were all digital and shit. Yeah. So I just look at it and I'm like, for me, I thought it was a real board that they had CG'd the flicks.
No, the whole board was as well.
For the whole board,
yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's favourite sequences. I think. It's the most. I mean, I don't really have any favourites. If I was going to say I have favourite, it's Tony Todd's sequence.
Oh yeah, Tony Todd's fun.
Because Tony Todd was fantastic. Yeah. But Todd's death was one of the most uncomfortable ones to watch. Like the prolonged strangulation.
Yeah.
It's just one of those films where you're just like, you just want to get in there and help the poor bastard.
I love the little touches of the soap in the bath, so he can't get his feet.
Yeah. Of course, Terry getting hit by that bus, like it's such a shocking moment. I guess the teacher's death again. Like I always remember that chunk of glass hitting her neck and pulling down the knives on top of herself. It's brutal.
Yeah.
But again, my least favorite sequence in the film is that coincidence when they all just happen to meet up again in the middle of the street without any kind of telling each other, let's all meet up here.
Yeah.
And they just all happen to be there just so that Terry can die. So okay.
Like that's what I mean. Death being a complete git. Like he orchestrated them all getting there.
Yes. Yeah.
So that they could view Terry getting killed. I wonder, like. You're not going to see it in the film, but if one day we've survived this plane crash, now let's move to 4 different corners of the planet, and Death's like, fuck's sake.
Well, Iain, do you recommend Final Destination?
I highly, highly, highly recommend Final Destination. Like I said, in the early 2000s, I was watching a hell of a lot of films, especially a lot of horror movies of all different types. And I was really starting to get a bit burnt out by the same, cliched shit that we all know we've seen, and we do love watching them all over again. But at that age, I was burnt out, bored. I needed something new, and it was also this film also made me realize that people that I knew weren't watching films the same as me. The people I watched this film with in the cinema, it was just go to the cinema, spend some time, and watch a film. For me, it was an eye-opener to people coming along to a franchise with experience and going, hey, let's mix this up. And I've seen it happen a lot more, as time going on. I mean, we're in 2020 now. This film's been out for 20 years. But seeing this from a teenager's eyes in the cinema on the big screen, I was like, fucking hell yeah. And like I said, I walked into the Saw series with the same kind of motif. If you don't like death and destruction and teens getting killed and stuff like that, you will not find anything in this movie for you. It's filled with that. But if you do like that kind of stuff and you've never seen Final Destination, check it the fuck out, because you know, maybe you'll spot some things that even Gary and I have never seen in the background that lead to little things, because the film's great.
Oh yeah, which is why I'm also definitely going to be recommending Final Destination. It's a great concept for a horror movie, and it's very well executed. From the opening plane crash to the final scene in Paris, you will be hooked to the screen, looking for clues and guessing how it's all going to play out. The performances from all the cast are very good, and Tony Todd almost steals the entire movie with his frightening presence and excellent line delivery.
Yeah.
The action and suspense is crafted and presented very well, with great cinematography by Robert McLaughlin. He would go on to do TV shows like Game of Thrones and Westworld.
Nice.
The music by Shirley Walker, who had done music for like the Batman animated series.
Oh, nice.
Although in this it wasn't as memorable, but it is suitably effective in creating a horrid and foreboding dread that just leaves you feeling uneasy throughout the film.
Yeah.
The special effects are done incredibly well, and there is enough blood, gore, and decapitations to satisfy most horror fans and leave you wanting more.
Yeah.
The premise does seem a little bit silly at points, or over the top, and it bends believability with some of the coincidence that occur, but the relatively fast pace and decent direction will carry you to the end. This film is a lot of fun, and it's easy to see how it spawned a franchise playing on the fear of death. It's a classic, and I loved it. It's great fun. But now, Ian, it's time for us to take a road trip. We'll see you guys in Final Destination 2. No! Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.